Welcome to your full moon forecast. My name is Adina. I'm an intuitive astrologer. In this video, I will be taking you on a journey because this full moon is our final lunar eclipse in Taurus. I am going to take you through the energies we've been moving through since November 2021. We will be going over all of the charts for the eclipses that we've had in Taurus and Scorpio, giving you an idea of the massive changes that has taken place, not just collectively, but individually. Now, for the first portion of this video, we will go through the presentation. And then for the second portion of this video, we will get into all 12 rising signs so that you are able to see how this energy is showing up for you personally. Now, before we start the presentation, I do just want to apologize for my voice. I've been sick. I actually lost my voice this past week, which is why my full moon forecast is late and I am posting it the day of. I usually post it a week prior. Now, let's just get into it. So, the first lunar eclipse we had in Taurus was November 19th, 2021 at 27 degrees, 14 minutes of Taurus. Now, this was when we still had the North Node in Gemini, but this was the first eclipse initiating us into the massive changes we would be moving through throughout this entire Taurus Scorpio journey. Now, Venus was the ruler of this eclipse. And also, too, I just want to note, Taurus rules money, finances, and you're going to see something very prominent kind of show up, like with how we've been moving through inflation and the changes to our money systems and finances and banking. And this is when it really started to shift and twist and turn and change. Now, we also had Jupiter, the planet of expansion, forming a T-square to this eclipse, showing that whatever was going to be playing out throughout this story taking place in the Taurus Scorpio areas, it was going to be big, right? Jupiter is the planet of expansion. So however this story was playing out, it was going to play out big. Now I want to take you to the solar eclipse we had in Taurus, April 30th, 2022. This eclipse was at 10 degrees of Taurus, 20 minutes conjunct Uranus. We had Venus conjunct Jupiter, Venus being the ruler, the dispositor of this eclipse. This is where we really seen inflation take a massive turn. The prices went up, gas went up, everything went up. That is Taurus representing money, right? Our even housing, our stability, what we need, our livelihood, right? And this is where we really seen this unexpected, that Uranian energy take a shift in direction. And then because, Jupiter just expands everything it touches. I really think this had a lot to do with that. It's almost quite literal. But this is why I wanted to present these charts, because I find it just so fascinating now that we've seen how this energy is played out and we kind of go back. It's just fascinating sometimes how literal the astrology can be. Now, in our own individual lives, when you look at the Taurus Scorpio axis in your chart, you want to know where you have Taurus and Scorpio. These were the areas of life going through changes. This could have been a period of time where there was something new showing up for you because of the North Node energy, which is something new. This is a new direction. The South Node represents where we are releasing, we are letting go. And that is another thing too. Scorpio can rule fears, things that are hidden, secrets. We had a lot come out, and we're going to get to it in one of these charts. It actually shows up, but there was a lot of secrets revealed. There was a lot that was hidden coming to light. Now let's take a look at the lunar eclipse in Scorpio we had May 16th, 2022. So this lunar eclipse was really powerful. I remember this one. It was only 3 degrees away from that South Node. Now remember, the South Node represents releasing and letting go. This is where someone may have come to your awareness, maybe even someone from your past, because it's that South Node representing the past, may have come to your awareness where you realized what needed to be released, let go of. This can also be very psychological energy, maybe mindsets. Now, your mindset can change to shift you into a new direction. That's what I was trying to say. Now, we had Mars, the co-ruler of Scorpio conjunct Neptune. So there was something that we were not seeing clearly with this energy. There was something presented that maybe we were seeing with rose-colored glasses that would have later been discovered. We would have later figured it out, but there may have been something here very unclear. Now, this also added to the very spiritual, energetic energy, because I remember this, that it was magnetizing. It was like, it was so hard. Sometimes it's hard to put words to the energies that you feel, but this one was very powerful energetically. So this would have been a really great time, or we may have felt intuition heightened. I know I did. And so if you think back to May 2022, you may have felt very sensitive at that point, very, picking up on a lot of energies around you. We also had this T square with Saturn, Saturn still being in Aquarius. So there was something showing up where it's like this stuck feeling. And even like intuitively, I feel like it's almost like having your feet glued to the ground and you're wanting to move, but you can't. And it's like the universe is like forcing you to stay still, to see something, to just sit with the energy. And this is very much how this may have shown up, where at this point, it's like we can see what's coming ahead. We can see that new direction, but we're not able to move forward yet for whatever reason. And it shows up for all of us differently. But this is what I really feel with this. And then collectively, of course, this showed up very differently. Now, when we get to, hold on, let's move ahead to because when we get to the solar eclipse in Scorpio, October 25th, 2022, around this time, there was a lot of secrets revealed. We had our solar eclipse at 2 degrees conjunct Venus in Scorpio. Remember, this is with the South Node. This is about secrets, fears, things that are hidden. This really brought a lot out. I don't know if you remember, there was a lot of documentaries, a lot of information, a lot of doctors speaking up about what had happened the last couple of years. There was a lot of truths coming out. There was a lot of information that we did not have previously showing up. There was a lot of new information coming out, but there was a lot of secrets revealed. There was a lot that was hidden now being presented and coming to light. I remember this. There was a documentary too that came out fall of 2022. I believe it was kind of activated by this eclipse. But this, again, it's one of those energies where it's like so prominent. And also too, because look, we've got the ruler Mars forming a trine to Mercury, which is so literal. We had a lot of information coming out, that Mercury energy. A lot of information. There was a lot of people talking, like doctors talking. Yeah, it was very, very interesting. Now, if we move ahead to the lunar eclipse we had in Taurus, November 8th, 2022, this was at 16 degrees conjunct Uranus retrograde. And also, too, I want you to keep in mind, this is around, I'm just moving back for a second, the solar eclipse in Scorpio on October 25th. We had Mars at 25 degrees of Gemini. Now, when we move ahead, this is when we had Mars form. This is when we had Mars station retrograde, which Mars would have stayed retrograde for a few months until we got into 2023. This was very intense. So where the first eclipse, we had Mars direct. Now we had Mars retrograde. So there was a lot showing up, Mars being in Gemini. Again, that planet, that sign of information, communication, ruled by Mercury conjunct the sun. So there was a lot more coming out with both of these eclipses. There's a lot of information being highlighted here. And I remember there was a lot of information coming out. And again, we have that T square to Saturn. Saturn being an Aquarius, the sign that has to do with the collective, the people. And so there was a lot showing up here around, what had happened the last few years. Now, in our own individual lives, this is where there could have been a very unexpected shift in mindset or shift in direction when it had to do with that North Node energy. So whatever journey you've been moving on since 2021, and however this story played out for you, there was new energies that were very unexpected coming in at this time to change your direction in some way. And again, this can be psychological. This can be just a shift in mindset. It can be emotional. Now, Venus being the dispositor here, being in Scorpio, again, it was like this even to like fears coming up that could have been holding you back in some way, was really coming to the surface here for you to be aware of so that you could release, let go, and move into the new. Now I'm going to take you to the lunar eclipse in Scorpio, May 5th of this year, 2023. Now, this lunar eclipse was at 14 degrees, 58 minutes. This one we had Mercury retrograde. This is a really intense eclipse season. We had Mercury retrograde. We had Mars, thank goodness, out of that retrograde period now in Cancer, but Mars doesn't do the greatest in Cancer. Mars is actually at its fall in Cancer. But this lunar eclipse in Scorpio, there may have been a lot, again, highlighted with those fears, especially with that Mercury retrograde. There could have been like a lot of confusion. There was a lot of confusion about the next steps to take with the journey, the next steps, like whatever story and journey you were moving through. There was a little bit of confusion here with, okay, now I know the direction I'm moving in, but what are these next steps? What's the next? I'm thinking of like football. What's the next play? Like where is this taking me now? What's my next move? And also at this point, we had Pluto in Aquarius really shifting that energy because Pluto is the co-ruler of Scorpio. So Pluto being in Aquarius, starting to approach that T-square to the nodes, which we were moving through pretty much the entire year of 2023. I made a video about this where that was very much where those fears became really front and center. Whatever fears or whatever psychological chains were still holding you back, they were really coming to the forefront throughout May, June, July when we had that T-square. We're even still moving through the T-square a little bit, but we've moved through the brunt of the energy. And now we're coming out of it as we have the nodes in Aries and Libra now kind of moving off of the T-square. But yeah, this was when this T-square became really prominent, and it was like wanting to go in two directions, not knowing which way to go, fears coming up. You know, if you want to move in the North Node direction, you have to release the fear. You can't do both. You have to surrender. That was a lot of this energy here. And now I'm going to bring you to the now, to our final eclipse we are having in the, our final lunar eclipse in Taurus that we are having October 28th, today, in a couple hours from me recording this. So we got to hurry and get this out there. But this eclipse is at 5 degrees of Taurus, 9 minutes. Now, the Venus is the ruler, the dispositor of this eclipse in Virgo at 18 degrees. So, and we will get into this by when we get into all 12 rising signs, but you want to check and see if you have any personal planets or points at that 18 degrees, also that 5 degrees of Taurus. And so if you've been going through a nodal return or a nodal reversal, this is that final hurrah energy, whatever, even if you're not, whatever journey you've kind of been on. But if you want to know what a nodal return is or nodal reversal, I do have a video on my channel that you can check out. I will link it in this video, maybe like right here as I'm talking at the top. And that can kind of explain what a nodal return is or a nodal reversal. But these are massive periods of time in our life where we are going through changes in some way. And so, you know, there's this final, and this is, and now I'm speaking to you if you're going through a nodal return or not, you know, either way, this is energies coming in to bring this final understanding of how this story has played out and the direction you need to move in. And so it's been a long 2 years of figuring out what's this new direction? What do I need to release and let go in order to move in this new direction? What needs to be changed? There's been a lot of fears coming to the surface that we've had to address and move through, a lot of psychological chains that we had to escape from, essentially, you know, in our own way. We're moving through this. And so with this final energy coming in for the North Node, indicating, you know, that I'm saying for the North Node, because the North Node was in Taurus, this has to do with that new journey, that new direction you're moving into, and the final understanding of it's like I even feel intuitively, it's like this final understanding, like now I get it. Now I know the direction I'm supposed to move in, because it's like we've had these little we've had these little pieces to the puzzle come in, right? Giving us clarity each time we have an eclipse. It's like more energy to the story, another piece to the puzzle. Now is when the puzzle becomes completed, is basically what I'm trying to say. Now the energy's coming in, and the energies and the experiences and situations that will be playing out over the next month to 6 months, we are finally able to put the puzzle together, to complete the puzzle and know the direction we're meant to move in. And remember, nodes are very fated, very karmic, especially that north node. You have this magnetic pull towards. This is a part of your destiny, your purpose in this lifetime, and what your soul wants to experience. So the energies coming in now is putting that puzzle together for you. And that just came to me intuitively, from my higher self, but great metaphor. But another energy I really want to talk about with this is this Mars opposition to Jupiter retrograde. This can feel very intense, especially over the weekend. Now, this is definitely where, because we've got Mercury conjunct Mars opposing Jupiter, this is definitely where we can be seeing a lot on the news with what we are already seeing play out in the world. There can be more to that coming up. There can be more to that happening. This can be very explosive energy. Remember, Jupiter is the planet of expansion. Jupiter will expand whatever it touches. Now, Jupiter being retrograde, still forming the opposition to Mars, conjunct Mercury. I mean, this can be really powerful. Mars is very powerful in Scorpio. Mars is at home in Scorpio. Mars rules Scorpio. So Mars is very powerful right now, being expanded by that Jupiter energy. If there's not balance, this can be, very intense. So, and that can show up. I think that's going to be more collectively now in our own individual lives. We want to be watching our communication. We want to be watching. This is where we can be a little impatient, a little impulsive. This is also where we can feel this real deep inner desire and drive to figure something out, get to the bottom of something. This is great energy for research, which is how I've been utilizing this energy. But we do want to, because it's Mars, we do want to be watching for that anger, aggression, and conflict. Now, we also have Venus, the dispositor of this lunar eclipse in Taurus, trine Uranus, which is again bringing in this and Uranus has been, if you haven't noticed, as we went through the charts, Uranus has been a key player in this story that's played out in the Taurus Scorpio areas, because we have Uranus and Taurus. So these energies have been playing out in its situations and experiences in very unexpected ways, sometimes very shocking ways for some, with the inflation and the prices of gas and groceries and stuff. Some of this has been really shocking to us, especially when we look back at prices 2-3 years ago to what they are now. Before we started having the eclipses in Taurus, very different, right? So there can be more to that. I think there can be more around inflation showing up. There can definitely be more changes to our money systems, banking. I also just seen too, I reside in Canada, and I'm always kind of doing research on Justin Trudeau, Canada, and all of that, because I create videos for my fellow Canadians, going into like the forecasts and the energies and stuff. But I just seen that there were that people are actually getting their bank accounts closed. Like they go to the bank and the bank is telling them, no, we closed your account. That can be this like Venus trying to Uranus. Like this is very much how this can be. So we can, or how this energy can play out. So we can see more of that. That we just want to be mindful of, and why is this happening? That's the question. Why is this happening, and how? And we may even see more people standing up for a lot of this once we get into 2024, because then we're going to have Pluto actually seeing what's already going on. Now I'm getting a little off topic, but seeing what is already going on come January, when we have Pluto and the Sun are going to conjunct at 29 degrees of Capricorn and move into Aquarius together. This is going to be intense and powerful, which we will get into that energy at a later date. But that is when we can really see a lot of collective energy is showing up. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me. I again apologize for my voice. It's slowly coming back, but I really wanted to get this forecast up for you all. And stay safe. Remember, if you are moving through any difficult energies right now, try and ground, sit with the energy, meditate, envision white light surrounded, envision yourself surrounded by white light, and just say, I am happy, I am whole, I am complete, I am peaceful, I am loved. And that can help you move through difficult energies, because eclipse season can be quite difficult. So again, thank you so much for joining me. If you align with my energy, don't forget to like and subscribe. And now let's get into all 12 rising signs. Have a happy lunar eclipse in Taurus. Aries rising, you have this lunar eclipse in Taurus happening in your second house right here. Now, the second house represents money, finances, material possessions, your livelihood, your values. And since the end of 2021, when we had that first eclipse initiating us into this Taurus Scorpio cycle, you've been going through massive changes when it has to do with your finances and those eighth house topics being with the South Node in Scorpio, which is your partner's finances, money coming in from outside resources, loans, taxes, inheritance, psychological healing and transformation. There's been a lot of changes in this area, in these areas of life with that second and eighth house. And so this lunar eclipse we are having in Taurus at 5 degrees, you want to check your personal birth chart to see if you have any personal planets around that 5-degree mark, as well as Virgo, because the ruler, the dispositor of this lunar eclipse is Venus. Venus is going to be right here at 17, 18 degrees of Virgo. And so you want to check and see also if you have any personal planets or points in Virgo. Now, because Venus is in Virgo, which is in your 6th house, there may be something showing up for you that has to do with work or daily routine, your health, nutrition. Maybe wanting to change your health and nutrition in some way, or maybe implementing something new into your daily routine that has financial gain, or that is going to allow you to have some type of monetary gain and change the second house. Now, because this is the final lunar eclipse in Taurus, where there's new energies coming in, this is also a finalizing, a completion of the changes that have taken place in the second and eighth house. So think back to the last 2 years. What has been showing up for you? What are the changes you've been moving through when it has to do with your money and your finances? There's something new coming in at this time to finalize that change, to give you almost this complete clear direction in the direction that you're moving in. There's a clear direction in that. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a clearer direction with these changes that have taken place over the last 2 years when it has to do with your money, your finances, and material possessions, and then also too with your work. Having not just around your work, but your work and your daily routine having something to do with the change with your money and your finances. Taurus, you are having this lunar eclipse in your 1st house. So you've been going through massive changes the last couple of years when it has to do with you and your direction and who you are and your relationships. With having the North Node transiting the 1st house can really indicate one who is going through a massive shift in with your mindset, with your appearance, with your physical body. I mean, it's the 1st house represents you, right? Your character, your personality, how you view this physical reality, you just taking a complete new direction and reinventing yourself in some way. And so this lunar eclipse is bringing new energy in for that and a final realization of the direction that you're moving in. There's a completion taking place with this journey that you've been on the last 2 years. And also with your relationships, right? You've been going through having that South Node transiting the 7th house. There may have been a lot of releasing and letting go of people that are no longer in alignment with you. And so there's a final understanding of the journey you've been on the last 2 years and a completion. Now, we have Venus being the ruler, the dispositor of this lunar eclipse and your chart ruler in Virgo here at 18 degrees in your fifth house. So there's something here with fifth house themes and topics at play. Now, the fifth house has to do with your children, creativity, hobbies, interests, romance, everything you do for fun and passionate about is in the fifth house. So there's something here also being highlighted that you may be implementing. You may be implementing these fifth house themes and topics into this new direction that you're moving into. Maybe doing something with your creativity and putting that out there. Maybe taking a new journey or direction with your creativity or your creative pursuits or something you're passionate about, or even children. Gemini, you have this lunar eclipse in Taurus happening in your 12th house of spirituality, places that are hidden, asylums, hospitals, retreat centers. This is also the house of karma and self-undoing. So the last 2 years, you've been moving through a lot of changes, whether it's spiritual changes, maybe taking a new spiritual direction, maybe developing a spiritual practice, maybe releasing something here, because that South Node being in the sixth, there's been a lot of releasing those sixth house themes and topics, which is work, health, and daily routine, changing your daily routine up in some way to shift something that with the 12th house themes and topics. Maybe even to dealing with a lot of karmic energy, karmic patterns and cycles, breaking those karmic cycles that maybe you used to be stuck in day to day, shifting and changing that. Now, with Venus being in Virgo, which is here in your fourth house of home and family, there may be something with these fourth house themes and topics that you're implementing into this 12th house energy, this story that's played out over the last 2 years. But either way, this final lunar eclipse in Taurus is giving you an understanding of the completion of the story, the new direction that you've been moving in. There's a finalizing of that, where let's say there's been a lot of ups and downs in these areas of life the last 2 years, and now you have an understanding of why this has shown up, what this looks like, and the direction that you will be moving in. Cancer, you have this lunar eclipse in Taurus happening in your 11th house of friends and friendships, social groups, online connections, social media, humanitarian pursuits. So you've been going through a lot of changes in these areas of life with this 11th house and this fifth house, with Scorpio being in the fifth house, where we had the South Node, and the North Node being in your 11th, where we had the North Node transiting the last 2 years. So the lunar eclipse that we're having today is bringing energies in for completion, a final understanding of what this change looks like for you, whether it's been changes to your friends, whether it's been a lot of releasing and letting go of things that maybe you thought you were passionate about, or maybe old interests, old hobbies, old romantic connections, in order to dive into this 11th house themes and topics, whether you're putting yourself more online, online creations of some kind, or developing new friendships. So there's a final understanding taking place with this energy, with this lunar eclipse. Now, Venus is the ruler, the dispositor of this lunar eclipse, right here in Virgo in your third house. So there's something about these third house topics being implemented into this energy, whether it's that you're communicating online. I mean, it could definitely show up in that way. Whether there's something here where the third house represents a communication, reading, speaking, writing, and maybe you're doing something with those themes and topics, and friends, maybe taking some ventures with friendships, or doing something with your social media platforms, implementing something online that has, podcasting, creating something and putting that online. It definitely can show up in that way. And this may have been something you've been moving through the last 2 years. Every time we get one of those eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio, there's new energy that comes in to add to the story. Now there's a completion to this story, a final understanding of the direction you want to move in and what that looks like for you. Leo, you have this lunar eclipse in Taurus happening in your 10th house of career and public reputation. So you've been going through a lot of changes with your career and how you look in the world, your public image, and your home and family. So with the South Node moving through the fourth house, there may have been a move or changes within the home and family. With the North Node moving through the 10th house, this is where there may have been a lot of changes with your career, a new direction, maybe becoming more known online. Now, with this final lunar eclipse in Taurus, there's a final understanding of how this journey has played out for you and the next steps. So there's a completion here. I always look at eclipses and the nodes transiting the signs as a story playing out. This is a completion, a finalizing to that story. Now you have an understanding of how this has shown up and why, and the next steps, the next direction to move in. Virgo, you have this lunar eclipse in Taurus happening in your 9th house of higher education, higher knowledge, long distance travel, belief systems, philosophy, astrology. And so having the nodes transiting the 9th and the 3rd house, there's definitely been a lot of changes the last 2 years in these areas of life. Now, the North node indicates something new showing up. It's a new direction, a new journey. So this lunar eclipse is highlighting what that new journey has been and why. Basically, there's a completion taking place here. Every time we enter eclipse season, we have new energies coming in for that story. And so this final lunar eclipse we're having in Taurus, there's a completion to that. There's a final understanding of the direction you need to move in and the next steps, and almost even to like a reflection on, now I know why this showed up, whether it was a year ago, 2 years ago, to get me to where I am now. Now, the ruler of this, the dispositor of this solar eclipse is Venus. Venus is here in Virgo in your 1st house. So there really is something highlighted here about you, changing about you, and the direction that you're moving in. So there really is a lot of focus on a new direction of who you are, because that 1st house represents you, your personality, your character, your appearance, your physical body, how you view this physical reality. So there is something really being highlighted with who you are as a person and how you want to be seen in the world and perceived with this 9th house. So whether it's that you've been focusing more on teaching or learning or philosophy or changing your belief systems in some way, there's a final understanding. This new energy that's coming in is completing the story for you. Libra, you have this lunar eclipse in Taurus happening in your 8th house of your partner's finances, money coming in from outside resources, taxes, inheritance, psychological healing and transformation. There's been a lot of changes in your money houses the last couple of years. Having the North node moving through the 8th house and the South node moving through your 2nd, you may have gotten rid of a lot of debt, or there may have been a lot of focus on debt. Maybe, the North node could definitely be bringing new debt in, but I feel like there's been a lot of focus of just clearing out your finances, things you no longer want to pay for. And there's been a lot of focus in these areas. And so this lunar eclipse is highlighting and finalizing all of those changes you've been moving through with your finances. There was probably something new that showed up for you over the last month, giving you a better understanding of the direction that you're going to be moving in when it has to do with your finances. And so there's definitely a completion taking place here with the journey you've been on with your money. Now, Venus is the ruler, the dispositor of this lunar eclipse, and Venus is right here in Virgo in your 12th house. So there's something being implemented here with your 12th house, like maybe something is ending because the 12th house represents endings. There could be something ending here that you've been having to pay for, or maybe trying to pay off, that's finally completed for you. And if this is something you've been working at over the last few years, especially the last couple of years since the end of 2021, there's a completion, there's an ending, there's a finalizing of that payment, that loan, whatever that looks like for you. Scorpio, you have this lunar eclipse in Taurus happening in your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, and close personal connections. So you've been going through a lot of changes when it has to do with you and the close personal connections in your life, whether it's love relationships, business partnerships, all of those close one-on-one connections. Now you've had the North Node transiting the seventh, so you may have had a lot of new relationships come into your life, meeting a lot of new one-on-one connections. And the South Node moving through the first may have been releasing and letting go of certain aspects of yourself that you realize you're no longer in alignment with. And so this lunar eclipse is highlighting, these new people that have shown up, maybe even somebody new coming in now, completing this cycle, finalizing these energies that you've been moving through and the changes you've been moving through. Now, with the ruler, the dispositor of this lunar eclipse being in the 11th house for you in Virgo, there can be a friend showing up right now that can be quite significant in your life, or meeting somebody through a friend or meeting somebody online. There's something about these 11th house themes and topics showing up for you with this story to complete the changes that you've been moving through over the last couple of years. Sagittarius, you have this lunar eclipse in Taurus happening in your 6th house of work, health, and daily routine. So you've been going through a lot of changes when it has to do with your work, health, and daily routine the last couple of years. Having the North Node in the 6th and the South Node in the 12th, maybe you've been implementing new routines. Maybe there's something new you've been moving through around your health or work. There's a finalizing, a completion of this story and this direction you've been moving into, and the story that's been playing out the last couple of years. So there's something new coming in at this time, giving you a final understanding of the direction that you will be moving in when it has to do with these 6th house themes and topics. Now, the ruler, the dispositor of this lunar eclipse is Venus, and Venus is right up here in your 10th house in Virgo, which your 10th house has to do with your career and your public reputation. So there's definitely something showing up for you around your work, around your career, or around how you want to be known in the world. That's adding to this story. It's like this last hurrah, giving you this final understanding of, this is what I want. This is the direction I want to move in when it has to do with my career and what I want to be known for. Capricorn, you have this lunar eclipse in Taurus happening in your 5th house of children, creativity, hobbies, interests, what you are passionate about, romance, romantic connections. And so you've been going through a lot of changes with the 5th house and the 11th house, having the North Node transiting your 5th house and the South Node transiting your 11th. You may have been releasing and releasing and letting go some old friendships that maybe are no longer in alignment with you, and really implementing some new hobbies, some new interests, maybe even children with the North Node in the 5th. And so this lunar eclipse that we are having is really highlighting and bringing this new energy in to finalize the change, to complete the change, and give you a better understanding of what you want and the direction that you are moving in when it has to do with these 5th house themes and topics. Now, this lunar eclipse is ruled by Virgo, and Virgo is right up here in your 9th house. Or sorry, this lunar eclipse is ruled by Venus, and Venus is in Virgo right up here in your 9th house. So there's something about these 9th house themes and topics that are at play here. Now, the 9th house represents higher education, higher knowledge, long distance travel, your belief systems, astrology. So there could be something here highlighted, or taking a journey here with this 9th house that's going to help kind of complete the energies and the story playing out in the 5th, if that makes sense. Aquarius, you have this lunar eclipse in Taurus happening in your 4th house of home and family. So you have been moving through a lot of changes when it has to do with your home, your family, and your career, having the North Node moving through the 4th and the South Node moving through the 10th. So maybe there's been a really big move for you over the last couple of years, or a lot of changes to your family. And so the energy coming in with this lunar eclipse in Taurus is finalizing that, giving you a better knowing and understanding of why certain things have taken place over the last couple of years, why you are where you are, and the direction you are now moving in the future. So maybe you've taken a big move that was challenging for you, and now maybe there's an understanding as to why that move took place. And there's definitely new energies coming in for that as well. Maybe there's also, too, if you've been moving through anything with your family, there can be some energy coming in, a situation or experience, kind of finalizing and completing the journey you've been on the last couple of years. Now, with that South Node moving through the 10th, the last couple of years, you may have had to release and let go of a job, or there may have been changes to your career and public image. Now, this lunar eclipse in Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus is right here in your 8th house in Virgo. So there's something about these 8th house themes and topics. And this 4th house at this time that you're moving through, that's giving you a better understanding of the direction that you need to move in. So the 8th house represents your partner's finances or money coming in from outside resources, loans, taxes, inheritance. So there may be something showing up for you here that's giving you a better understanding of the direction that you're moving in here in this area of life. Pisces, you have this lunar eclipse in Taurus happening in your 3rd house of community, neighbors, neighborhood, communication, reading, speaking, writing, siblings, cousins. So you've been going through massive changes in this area of life, with the North Node transiting the 3rd and the South Node transiting the 9th. Now, the 9th house represents higher education, higher knowledge, long distance travel, philosophy, belief systems, astrology. So there may have been something released here, completed, finalized, and let go of in the 9th house, and something new that showed up in the 3rd house with Taurus. And so the story that's been playing out for you, or the journey you've been moving through the last couple of years, there's a completion taking place with that. There's energy, situations, or experiences coming in at this time, giving you a better understanding of the new direction that you're moving into, that you've kind of been working with the last couple of years. Now, Venus is the dispositor of this lunar eclipse, and Venus is right here in your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, and close personal connections. So there's something about the people in your life being a part of this kind of journey or energy that you're currently moving through. Maybe somebody is showing up for you to help push you in this new direction, or maybe there's a loved one that's very supportive, that's really helping you move in this new direction. Either way, there's a completion taking place at this time, completing the story that has been playing out, that you have been moving through, excuse me, that you've been moving through the last couple of years.